the invisible injury, like the invisible aspects of it are very real, no matter what your experience is. And Allison, I think you so eloquently explained, like, probably for you, it's a lot more challenging as a model.
It is. And it often, well, modeling in general has stereotypes of not having a brain. So that's kind of interesting in itself. I disagree with that stereotype. But that's interesting, as well as I also am very public facing, both in my career and in my job as Miss Oregon. And so I deal with what I would consider imposter syndrome. And it's this idea that I know I have a brain injury. I know I've worked really, really hard to overcome the symptoms, but I feel like there's almost a level of shame that's associated with it, which it shouldn't be because I really don't have control over it. But it's this idea of, do I really deserve to be in these arenas? Do I deserve to be a voice and have a voice? And oh my gosh, what if somebody finds out about my traumatic brain injuries? And are they going to think about me differently? Or what if I stutter? Or what if I can't articulate what my heart is really trying to say? And so all that, I think, really goes back to that whole almost fear of this invisible injury. And where I've been able to find my strength is really trying to let people into that journey. And I think it's hard to open up, especially because I am someone that's so high functioning. Like, I'm grateful every single day that I'm able to handle what I can, even though I've had such traumatic events. But it's my goal is to use my voice to articulate what it's like to have this invisible injury, with the hope that those people that don't have the opportunity to share their voice feel supported and heard. And we can start moving in the direction where we can find the diagnostic tools to make this not an invisible injury and something that's real and something that we can treat and progress from long term.
I love that passion for advocacy because I think we share that for sure.
Yes.
And I love that you are using your platform and your voice to share that. So, can we dig a little bit deeper into the imposter syndrome
Mhm.
idea? Because I hear it a lot when it comes to career, and I think that is valid and true, but what about in daily life? I think as brain
Mhm.
injury survivors, a lot of times we feel like we're constantly just in survival mode and we're just trying to, keep it together. And so, what encouragement would you have for any survivors who maybe feel out of place in their daily life?
Mhm. I think it's important to really sit down with yourself and acknowledge where you are at. For me, my coping mechanism was always to stay busy. And then, of course, with the COVID-19 pandemic, the world shut down, and I was forced to deal with a lot of emotions that I don't think I ever really processed through my concussion journey. And one of those big emotions was this idea of being an imposter syndrome, including, in a very strange way, being an imposter for the person that I used to be, like somebody that doesn't even exist anymore. And it was this whole concept of, in my head, I had this stigma of like, oh, like Allison pre-brain injury would be able to handle this just fine. Or Allison pre-brain injury, everybody liked her. She was able to do all of these things. And I realized I was diminishing who Allison is. And because of my brain injury, I've had so many different opportunities. And so, why was I having this imposter syndrome? Why did I feel like the Allison that I am now is not good enough and hasn't put the work in and doesn't deserve to be here? And so, my encouragement through that is really spend some time with yourself, and whether that's through a coping mechanism, maybe that's music or drawing or therapy or talking to a friend, whatever you need, but really getting raw and down to these deep hard emotions, and trying to evaluate, how do I feel about myself? How do I feel about the brain injuries? Do I feel limited? Do I feel fake? Do I feel uncomfortable talking about my story? And the more that you dive into those emotions and start processing, I think, at least for me, the more comfortable I've been with everything else. Just talking about my brain injury story, feeling like I deserve to be here. I also had this weird, I mentioned earlier, like guilt and shame that I'm so high functioning compared to so many other people, and trying to be an advocate for a group that is suffering so much. But on the outside, again, it doesn't look like I'm suffering. And so I would just encourage you, don't run from those emotions because they will sneak up on you and be potentially harmful. So whatever it looks like for you to go through that processing phase, that's really helped me with this concept of imposter syndrome and feeling like I, Allison Cook, as I am today, deserve to be here and deserve to be a voice for anyone and to share my story and hopefully do that with love and grace and support.
Is there any last words of encouragement or hope that you would give to our survivors, as well as any practical tips on ways that they can work on their confidence?
Mm-hmm. I think there are kind of two mantras that I find myself gravitating towards. The first one my father would say all along as we were growing up. It's from a philosopher, Albert Camus. Life is the sum of your choices. And with that, some days you're going to make great decisions. Some days you'll make bad decisions. And maybe that bad decision is tiring yourself out and not being able to do anything the next day and being in bed. But each day I want to empower you to take control of your attitude and take control of those decisions that you make. And don't be too hard on yourself if one day looks very differently than the next day. I mean, maybe one day you have 10 great decisions. And like I mentioned earlier, then that other day is a rough one. But don't let a bad brain injury day or don't let one moment detract from the wholeness that you are and the greatness that you are and the opportunity that you have to share your story, to inspire others to get better every single day. Be the champion of your life. No one else is going to understand like you understand. And so with those decisions, you have the opportunity to make one decision every single day to better yourself, to better yours around the lives around you. So be that champion, be your own voice, be your own advocate. And the more that you feel empowered to be able to take the reins and take some sort of ownership on your situation, your confidence is going to come with that. And people are going to see it and feel it and know it and love you. So take that opportunity, be the champion of your life. Take that one difficult step because it might lead to steps that come in the future. But I just want to encourage you that you are loved and you will always have a friend in me.
Through your darkest night.